Hi, everyone. This is Paula Harris, and I have with me Eric Vickery. How you doing, Eric?
I'm good. How are you, Paula?
I'm doing great. I have a question for everybody today. What are the 3 reasons your team is not following your systems? I get this question a lot. Do you ever get this question from doctors?
Yeah, the question is presented as implementation. Why do we keep talking about the same thing, but implementation isn't happening?
And a lot of doctors feel like, well, maybe I haven't been clear. And so they get their systems manual together, and we have loads of documents we send them, we go over it, we have a team call, all this kind of stuff, and it's still not happening. So I think in conversation, this is kind of coaching corner conversation here, we're letting doctors listen in. I've had this conversation so many times in the last few months, and I've come up with 3 reasons, maybe there's more, I don't know, but at least 3 reasons why team members are not implementing. So number 1, I think, is they don't want to.
Yeah, I think that's laziness. I've never had to do it that way. That's not how they trained me before. Those sorts of things get in the way. And then doctors frustrated going, well, maybe this is the wrong system, or maybe this coaching is wrong, or maybe I shouldn't have this high of expectations.
Yeah, or, we've always done it this way. I don't see any need to change, that kind of thing. So sometimes there's a lack of, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I think the second one is probably I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So
don't fix it.
This is a purpose conversation of like, what's the why? And that's a mistake I see in leadership a lot is we'll give the system, we'll hand out the system, or we'll read a book or hear a podcast, get a document and say, okay, we're going to be doing this now. And there's no conversation about why. And a great example is perio charting.
Yeah.
So I see doctors writing up their systems, getting their perio protocols together, which you should do, right? And then the hygienist still isn't doing it. So they don't believe in it, maybe.
How about this one where the doctor comes back from a course and he didn't bring the team with him or her, right? And doctor comes back in and says, all right, here's what we're going to do. And the team's just not on board with it. They don't have the big picture. They weren't at the course. They didn't see it how the doctor saw it. And so therefore they're just not on board.
That's kind of level 1 leadership of pulling your boss card, I call it, of you have to do this because I'm your boss and I say so. Yeah. And then you get this withholding, you get that, okay, in the meeting, and then it's not done.
Yeah.
So some of that I believe is they just haven't really bought into the concept and the why. The third one is I think they might not be confident. So I see this come into play with some of the new patient phone skills or the insurance question when you're out of network. And I don't know, where do you see this?
Yeah, I see it in panic mode when it comes to ideal day scheduling. They're so afraid to hold that rock appointment for that. I'm skipping over something when I have this little sand or water appointment, low production appointment, and I put it in there. It's a type of fear of rejection or approval addiction where they're so afraid that they're not going to fill that and there's going to be open time. It's the lesser of 2 evils. Well, I'll just put something in there when really if they just waited, tomorrow there's an emergency, we could put, a rock appointment in that spot. And so the confidence level has to be there to know that, to trust the system and to trust your skills that you're going to get case acceptance to put the patients in.
That's exactly right. That's the 10 on the head we talk about with self-esteem. And I know when I was a practice coordinator, and you've been working up front as well, and it was hard for me I wasn't allowed to fill that rock time until the afternoon before, and that kind of freaked me out. So I figured out some ways to handle that. But I think part of it too with systems is entropy. Everything gravitates to disorder. Yep. And sometimes we think that we only have to say it once. Eric, you have 4 kids. I have 5. Did you just have to say it once?
Yeah, no, it's, see, my 20-year-old who's living at home going to college is still hearing it. So, yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we only had to say it once? That's not the case. So it takes reinforcement. In fact, let's see, studies have shown we have to hear something 7 to 12 times before we know it. And we have to practice it for 21 days.
21, and that starts the habit. It's 52 days to cement the habit. That's just the launching point. So, when we're reviewing things with team and system and creating accountability and put leaders in place, there's a reason why that process is required. It will just dissipate, entropy. It'll fall apart. I use 4 disciplines of execution. It's a Covey book, his son Covey, and in that book, it talks all about why big businesses fall apart in doing this, and all the same principles apply to small businesses. And you have to be disciplined in execution for sure.
You're absolutely right. I think this is also a management versus leadership conversation. Management is giving them the system or creating the system. Leadership is, okay, now that it's not being implemented, what do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Because what we tend to do is just keep reminding them over and over. I get these emails all the time. Our topics for the call are this. We've been over this 15 times. Still not happening. Well, that's because you're stuck in the management conversation. You need to shift to leadership. So what does that look like when we're shifting from management to leadership when it's not happening?
Yeah, the hard part is dentists are absentee owners or absentee leaders. It's not that they're not in the building, it's that they're working right alongside us.
Yeah.
They're the most, hopefully they're the busiest worker of all of us. Okay. Therefore, they can't be out making sure, governing, managing, making sure things are being implemented. So they think, oh, I need to hire an office manager, and they're going to be the ones going to do it. Well, they're also not going to be doing things that you've said you want them to do and systems you put in place.
So we just put drones up in the office.
What's that?
Drones.
Yeah. Let's just, and cameras. Cameras are great too. I can see.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, pull that up. I'm going to be drilling while I'm looking at my cameras and seeing what's happening. So, yeah. So what you have to do is you have to then empower team members to want to do this instead of telling them what they need to do. And I don't believe in dangling the carrot. I don't think that I'm going to do something just so I get paid more or whatever. It's the job. And so the goal is to create an ownership mentality with each employee. If each employee does not have an ownership mentality, they will not be performing at the highest level. So I do my job. I served 10 years up front. I don't know how many years you worked as administrator, but I managed 2 different practices. I served 10 years. So I did my time. And what I realized is if you don't have each person doing their job as though they own the business, right? They will do it in a subpar fashion. Yeah. So how do you get them to have the perception of ownership? Well, I think measures. I think that really helps. I think feedback helps. I think appreciation helps. But you have to empower them. And you got to just have people who want to grow the business. Mm-hmm. Whether that's through competition, if they feel the challenge of it. You cannot motivate somebody else to do something you want them to do.
That's right.
I think they have to be a motivated person to do it. So just because there's initials after their name that show they're, clinically able to perform the job or years of experience, whatever it is, doesn't mean they're motivated to run your business the way you want them to. And you need to find the right people to do that. Once you have them in place, then you need to perpetually appreciate, confirm, encourage, engage, and communicate.
And inspect what you expect.
Yeah, that's good.
You're absolutely right. And so the management conversation when we don't have follow through can look like a performance review. A leadership conversation when we're not following through looks like the 5-step conversation, which is let's start where we can agree. We have another video on this, but start where we can agree, list the facts, list the specific times, dates, patient names, whatever, when this did not happen.
Didn't happen correctly, yeah.
Then we talk about how we feel about that. I'm frustrated, this doesn't work. Or maybe there's an apology that's appropriate of what have I done to cause you to lose respect for our practice and for our vision, things like that. And then we can get into what are your solutions? If you were the leader, what would you do to fix this?
Ask for them.
Lastly, let's follow up and make sure our consequences are clear. And if this was still going on and you were the leader, what would you do? So that's another video, and we have handouts for that and stuff if you want. But I think that's the difference between the management leadership shift.
So when I'm doing coaching, I say every time I'm speaking, and right now this is happening for people who are watching this, you are assessing what's being spoken versus who you really are. So every time there's information shared, you assess it and go, do I choose to be in alignment with that? So I'm assessing and going, I agree with that. How come I'm doing that? Would I like to be in alignment with it? Yes. I move into a positive response to it. And then I go, I like that. And then it's just information, it's just knowledge that sits there, or I create action. So it goes assess, align, action, right? So that's where Paul is in that conversation saying, okay, what do we need to do differently? But then the last step is accountability.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have the accountability in it, then it fizzles, right? And you feel like I keep having to have this come to Jesus meeting every 6 months with this team member where they get so bad, I can't take it anymore. And I've got to, bring them in and sit them down and do a review. And they're like, what are you talking about? I never knew you had this expectation. So make sure that your team is saying, assess. Oh yeah, I do care about this, right? Number one reason, I do believe that this is the right thing. I assess, okay, I do believe in it. How do I do it, right? Alignment, I have a separation in what our current reality is with our schedule and how we do it. And how do I know how to do that, right? So get the training, and then it starts to do it. Then it's action, and then it creates accountability. And every month we're talking with offices and creating accountability. That's why we have leaders who lead each system, so it helps create accountability throughout the team.
Exactly. I have team members who say, oh, I didn't know we were still doing that. He hasn't mentioned it in a while.
Out of sight, out of mind.
It's like I was kind of hoping that would go away, Yeah. So that goes back to your team meeting agendas and what's on there and reporting and keeping up with your goals and following through and revisiting. So this is it's a complicated system to make sure your systems are being followed up with, right?
Right, that's right. In 4DX, 4 disciplines of execution, the ultimate goal is to create a scorecard. And in the scorecard, it could just be a checklist. So I've done scorecards for offices, and they laminate them if they want, what have you. And it might say at morning huddle, then maybe one of your systems is, I want to ask for referrals. And every office goes, I want to ask for referrals. And it's so easy to forget to do that. And so what they'll do at morning huddles, they'll write the name of 2 people down they're going to ask for a referral. And then next to it, it'll say, did I do it? And then was it a positive response, right? That's one example. Maybe it's a doctor wants to do more new patient phone calls before the patient comes in. They'll write the name down and did they do it? They'll actually keep score. And the next day at morning huddle, they report on their score. They're keeping score. Other offices, it's just daily goals, just numbers. And they're yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And so I think scorecards are a great way to create accountability as well. And they're fun to use. And they work for a while, but you got to change it up. You got to do something different.
Every 90 days, there's a dip in enthusiasm. That was studied by NASA and Olympic athletes. So we just have to play with that. We have to expect that. That's an entropy follow-up every 90 days, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. When a new sport starts, like basketball just started for us, we're going to be so pumped. But it's really a good thing that the season ends. If it was just perpetual and it never ended, there wouldn't be that excitement to continue to play. And so having an end to the season creates urgency. So by this time, this end of the date, we want to have done this X number of times. And you give yourself a deadline. And then you start something else on the other end of that creates more enthusiasm.
That's very good. I use that same concept with bonus.
Yeah.
If bonus never changes, if it's non-ending, it's just kind of expected, Yeah, it's a very good, very good thing to have in your systems, to be looking at that 90-day accountability and time frame. So good stuff. Thanks, Eric, for sharing with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you need more coaching on this, let us know, right?
For sure.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.